Thanks for tuning into Howe's Things, a podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library, recorded right here in Wellsville, New York. My guest today is my old friend Kate Miller. Kate, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Nick. Good to be here. Under coercion,
sure.
Always.
Yes. The last full episode you're here, I'm trying to think. I think that's when we were talking Mercy Thompson, right? Patricia Briggs.
Yes, probably. Was that March, Women's History Month?
Yes, or was our Warriors chat after that? We've had some doozies.
No, it was.
It was
because that was closer to that was summer reading.
Summer reading program.
So that would have been June.
That's right.
Yes.
Have you read any more Warriors since last time?
I have not.
You haven't.
I admit I have not. No.
I put book 2 on hold. No, I put book 2 on hold, and it came in for me, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I should read this." And then I was like, "Nah." So
it's just there's so much else out there, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's always a choice. Well, November is picture book month, Kate. So
yes, it is.
I think we dig in. I think we dig into some picture books. But
I think so too.
Before we do that, I want to hear what you're reading right now. I know that it's not Warriors. So let's find out.
It is not.
Let's find out where Kate's bookmark is.
I had to pull up my Goodreads because I can't keep track of things ever.
That's fair.
I'm reading The Mysterious Benedict Society
Okay.
by Trenton Lee Stewart. Have you ever heard of that one?
I have.
I think Disney Plus is coming out with a show based on this book.
Okay.
So my family and I saw that and I was like, oh, I'll grab it, we'll read it, and then we'll watch it together, you know, kind of a whole package deal. I didn't realize it's like 470 pages long. So we are trudging through it, but it's a really good book. We're just slow moving. So we've been reading that for a while. And if we, you know, do a Youth Media Awards kind of podcast in February, I'll probably still be reading it.
Okay.
Personally, I am reading The Hawthorne Legacy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes.
Oh, okay.
It's the sequel to The Inheritance Game, which just came out like a year or so ago. Mm-hmm. I'm just devouring it. It is so good.
What kind of book is that?
It's a young adult, almost action adventure kind of thing.
Oh.
A teenage girl in the first book starts off, she's living in her car and then mysteriously inherits like one of the biggest billionaire in Texas, his entire estate.
Oh.
So she goes from nothing to everything, but there's all these clues and mysteries, and she has to live in the house for a year. The billionaire had disinherited all of his family, which was 2 children and 4 grandchildren, and so it's just this whole mystery of like, why did she get the whole inheritance and nobody else did? And the first one was it's a super fast read. It's like an adrenaline junkie is all I can think of as I keep reading it, and I'm like, ooh, you know, what twist is going to happen next? What's coming next? So it's really fun. And this one, I'm about halfway through, and I've only been reading it for a few days. So it's the same kind of read. You just can't put it down. You got to know what's coming around the next turn.
Yeah.
It's really fun. I really
cool.
like it.
That sounds good.
So that's about what I've been reading. What about you, Nick?
Well, I just finished the latest John Grisham, which is called The Judge's List. And they made a big deal about it. This is the first time John Grisham has written a book about a serial killer. And it's hard to spoil it because you know all the facts from the beginning and they never change.
Oh, no.
So
that's no fun.
No.
It's so much not like the Inheritance Games.
Yes. The basic premise is that there's a judge who is a very methodical serial killer, and somebody's onto them and takes it to this board that like their whole role is to go after judges. And it just stays on that level. Like, I don't know, there's not really any twists. You have to take a lot of like, okay, fine, I'll go along with it, you know, because I think there's a lot of things that don't really make sense. This to me feels like it would have been a really interesting short story or a novella, but stretching it out to full length, I don't know. It to me feels like, you know, John Grisham writing a James Patterson novel. And I don't mean that as a compliment, you know, it just I didn't like it. So I was disappointed, but
well, that's too bad because like the concept is kind of interesting.
It
I'm
is.
like, a judge that's a serial killer, you know, but like if that's all it is, then
the judge character though is, to me, was very like one-dimensional. It was just kind of like, yes, he's an evil serial killer, and it's just like
But he's not trying to uphold the law, and you know, it's just, you know, he's just evil.
Yeah, and so there's just a lot of it. Just to me, I kept asking, well, like how did he get this far in his career? Like how I don't know. It was, I will say it helped pass the time while I was recuperating, stuck in bed.
That is one benefit,
I
at
read it
least.
quickly. I wouldn't say that I was bored necessarily, but I was happy to be done with it and would
Yeah.
not put it on my list of even top 10 Grishams. I mean, it's
Ooh.
definitely towards the bottom.
Well, there needs to be a bottom of every list, though, I suppose.
That's true. That's true. I finished out Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run. These are graphic novels following the character Hawkeye. I'd
Oddly enough.
started the series a long time ago and really liked it and just kind of got away from it. But with a new Hawkeye show coming out, introducing the Kate Bishop character into the MCU, I wanted to finish the run. So I checked those out. Luckily, I checked those out before I got sick, so I had them with me.
Ah, there you go.
Finished those.
Yeah, that comes out around Thanksgiving time, right?
I think it does, yeah.
A new
It's
show?
soon.
I think
Pretty
so.
soon, yeah.
Pretty
So,
excited about that.
It was fun, and the art in them is great. I feel like the art and
Yeah.
like the humor is what really sells that series.
I feel like Hawkeye, that dry humor of the movie characters, at least. That's
Yeah.
why I love him.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and that's definitely pulling from, I think, this run in particular.
Nice.
Gets some of that in there. I'm currently reading our big library read book right now, Five Total Strangers by Natalie Richards. And this is decent so far. This is the one where, like, if you have Overdrive or Libby, anybody can check this out and we can all, like, read it at the same time.
Gotcha.
And it is, I'm going to say YA, and the basic setup is that people get snowed in at this airport, and these five total strangers decide to rent a car and go where they need to go. And
Donner party?
yeah. I'm just getting to a point in the book where I'm like, oh, something's about to happen now. So I'm liking it so far. It's interesting, but I think I'm just about to get to the meat of it.
So is it like a mystery, thriller, romance? Like, what kind of category does it fall under?
Right now, it's
'Cause
really,
I don't even know.
it's hard to say. I'm probably, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the way through it, and it's been all set up so far, but interesting setup. And it's not
Right.
it's not boring. I just haven't really got to, like, whatever the hook or the
It
twist
hasn't
is.
happened yet.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. But I've
I might
seen,
have to check that one out then.
yeah, I've seen things that listed as YA horror, so I don't know
Oh.
if that's true or not. It hasn't happened yet, but a few things happened where I was like, well, if this was horror, that would probably be a warning sign right there. So
Right.
we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's exciting then.
Yeah, I'm liking that. I've got our Christmas book club book. It's a Martha Grimes Christmas mystery.
You love your Christmas books, right?
I do. Yeah. Yep.
That's another one. Like, I don't typically fall into like I'm going to read a Halloween book around Halloween, or
Yeah.
I'm going to read a Christmas book. I feel like I should, and then I just never do. I'm
I
always
too.
reading
I mean,
something
I agree. I
else.
feel like you should as well.
I think the last time I was on in November, I was like, maybe I will this year.
Didn't happen.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well,
maybe
we've
this
got,
year though.
I've got at least two, because I've got to do this Martha Grimes one for the book club, and then I'm gonna do. I
Okay.
like to do like a goofy, cozy Christmas mystery for the
Right.
cozy Christmas episode at the end of the year. So I've
There you go.
started my selection. I'm narrowing it down to some donut-based Christmas cozy mystery.
Ooh.
Some
Can't go
Christmas
wrong with a
murder in a donut shop, something like that.
Sure.
I'm basically only here for the titles of the cozy mysteries. I love them so much.
I think that's really half of the work that goes into it, isn't it? Ooh, let's come up with a good title.
Maybe 75% of the work.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
yeah,
That's
so I'm reading
fair, I
that, and then I've got some more comic books. I've been pounding through a lot, and I'm sparing you all the comic books that I'm reading at the moment. But I will say that I'm reading Aquaman Deep Dives by Steve Orlando. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good so far. I have been.
And if this were Eric, I'd have something to say
you
about
would.
that, but I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, he doesn't care about Aquaman. He doesn't care about.
Oh, okay,
Aquaman.
sorry. But we could talk about Batman, because he didn't know anything about Batman.
He
right?
didn't. No, didn't have a lot of knowledge about Batman. That's for sure, and that's a fact.
Oh, okay.
And no one
That
should
is
look
a
back
fact.
at old episodes and question that. I mentioned in our mini episode that I had
Mm-hmm.
that I got a breakthrough COVID case, and I've been like trapped, isolating in my house, and I don't know why, but my go-to binging shows have been Insecure on HBO, starring Issa Rae,
Okay.
and the '80s sitcom Perfect Strangers.
What?
Do you remember Perfect Strangers?
No, I do not.
You don't? That's Larry and Belky. Belky's from like some Greek-esque country, and he moves in with them. They live in Chicago. Nothing. Wow.
I was born late 80s.
Yeah. Okay.
So an 80s sitcom I might have missed a little
All
bit.
right. All right. Family Matters spun out of Perfect Strangers. Does that help?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Urkel?
I liked Family Matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the mom
I'm wearing
on
the
Family
gown.
Matters, the mom on Family Matters worked at the newspaper on Perfect Strangers before.
Oh.
So there's your connection.
All right, then.
Anyway.
There we go. See, we got there.
That's just, I just wanted, before we dive into the segment, I just want you to know where my head's at. And it's full of a lot
Gotcha.
of Perfect Strangers.
Gotcha. Okay. So if I miss the references, just, scooch on over to Urkel there, and we'll see what we can do.
Well, I'll drop some Urkel references for you. But it's funny because I don't think anyone in the history of like human civilization has paired Insecure and Perfect Strangers together for a marathon. But, I go with what works.
You do what you got to do.
I got to pass the time.
Pass the time.
And that was the way to do it.
Keep your sanity. Or at least try.
Try.
We'll see.
I will try. Yeah. All right, let's look at some book news.
Look into the future to see what it proves. It's time for book news.
I thought, since it is Picture Book Month, what better time than now to say what the New York Times bestseller list for picture books are. So here are the best-selling children's picture books from November 14th, 2021. This will be a real test.
I feel like this list is always skewed.
It is skewed, and some of these I know were here the last time we talked about it, but let's take a look at them anyway.
Okay.
Number 10, with 38 weeks on the list, How to Catch a Unicorn by Adam Wallace, illustrated by Andy Elkerton. Children attempt to capture the mythical creature.
Thrilling. Just like every other one of those books, which they're fun. They're fun.
Oh, is
but
this
really,
like a series?
Oh, yeah, they've got How to Catch an Elf, How to Catch a Turkey, How to Catch a Leprechaun, I think.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, this one's not holiday specific,
Yeah.
so maybe that could be cool.
Year round.
But yeah, it's always the same kind of thing. They're cutesy. They've got a really cute rhyme scheme, and the illustrations are usually good. But it's like, okay, yeah.
Next.
Next.
Our next one on the list, and number 9, with 67 weeks on the list, Grumpy Monkey. I've read this one, and I do like this one.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
Suzanne Lang, illustrated by Max Lang. Chimpanzee. See, I mean, right there, that goes back to the cozy mystery. All you need is a hook like that.
Right?
That's all you need.
One good pun, and we're good.
Chimpanzee is having a bad day. That's the full synopsis. I feel like the genesis of this book, and if I'm wrong, no one correct me, but I feel like somebody one day was like, Chimpanzee, you should write a children's book called that. And that's it.
And that was it.
I believe that's
I think that's how most of the best children's books are made.
I believe that.
You know what? That should be a children's book. Well,
I believe
okay.
That. Here, this might be a controversial opinion on my part, so you see what you think. Here is a book that should not be a series, but is. Number 8, 18 weeks on the list, Time for School, Little Blue Truck by Alice Schertle, illustrated by Jill McElmurray. Blue gives a friend a ride to school.
Isn't that what Blue does in every single one of those books?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Blue gives a ride somewhere.
Yeah.
It's kind of played out.
It is. I read the first one to my son back in the day. Like, we had it as a board book when he was little.
Yep.
And, I've read it a million times, and he always loved it then. But, like, I don't know. Like, I guess I was okay with the Halloween one or, like, a Christmas one. All right, fine.
Every now and then a spin-off.
But I don't need now he's driving someone to school. No thanks.
He's not a school bus. He's
That's
just
true.
a little blue truck.
You're right.
Stay in your line, little
You're
blue
right.
truck.
You're right. Number 7, 22 weeks on the list. Creepy Pair of Underwear by Aaron Reynolds, illustrated by
How
Peter
many
Brown.
weeks was this one on the list?
22.
Is that all?
22 weeks on the list. Jasper Rabbit deals with a pair of glowing underwear that won't go away. Peter Brown is on your list of books we're going to be talking about a little bit, isn't he?
He is. How long? That book has been out for so long, though.
Sorry. Creepy Pair of Underwear. Maybe it went off and came back on. I don't know. I don't know the rules.
It's just so confusing to me.
Yes.
Like, that came out 2 years ago, plus.
That's a long time. Well, it probably
anyway.
Halloween. It probably just, like, popped
They
back
got
up.
some kind of boost for it. Oh, man. All right.
Number 6, with 286 weeks on the list. So we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
The Wonderful
Maybe
Things
times.
You Will Be by Emily Winfield Martin. A celebration of future possibilities. So just a ripoff of Other Places You'll Go. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Which, I mean, fine. We needed a new version probably, but
I guess. I don't think anybody has ever been happy to get that as a graduation gift.
it's like getting a pair of socks at Christmas, I feel like.
No,
Like,
socks
oh,
are comfortable.
thanks.
I don't think so. Number 5, another long one. Another long, worthy one here. 332 weeks on the list. Dragons Love Tacos by Adam Rubin, illustrated by Daniel Salmieri. What
See,
to serve
this
your
is
dragon
where
guests?
I'm just like, forget it.
You're over this one?
I'm over the list at this point
Mm.
because I'm like, okay, yes, you've been on there for like 3 years. Let's find something new. There should be an expiration date, I guess. Is my point.
That's a good. Yeah, I agree. Number 4. Oh, here we go. All I had to do was look on the list and I'd find out. How to Catch a Turkey by Adam Wallace,
Yeah.
illustrated by Andy Alkerton. Students try to catch a runaway turkey before their Thanksgiving play.
Yep. That's all I have to say. Yep.
I feel like this year is the first year that, since I've had a child, that I've been completely out of the loops with picture books because he's just kind of aged out of them. You know, like we still read them sometimes. Like when he comes to the library, he usually picks a handful and we read them. But it used to be more like every night. You know, we'd read these every night.
I'm in the same place. You know, Ace is about the same age
Yeah.
as West, and I'm like, no, let's still sit down and read these. But he's reading his easy readers by himself, you know, so it's sad.
We've been doing, you know what? I didn't mention this in Bookmark, but I'm going to mention it now because this is what Weston and I have been reading before bedtime every night, and that is The Ice Monster by David Williams with illustrations by Tony Rost. Are you familiar with this author at all?
I don't think so.
Okay, I wasn't either, but there's a lot of these books, and I keep meaning to talk to you about this because I know you're a big Roald Dahl fan, and clearly these are trying to be written in the vein of Roald Dahl.
Really?
And a lot of the blurbs are like, the new Roald Dahl. And I just recently reread James and the Giant Peach, and like reading this one now, I do see it. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's I don't know. If you're a fan, are you going to come to this and be like, but I think
we kind of just like that off-center kind of sense of humor, the little bit of like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know, you never really know what's gonna come with Roald Dahl, so
Yeah.
that's really what we like about it. So.
Well, so far this one has been definitely off kilter. It's been a little naughty and just a touch disturbing here and there, just a little.
Well, you know, the
Just a
giant
little-
peach flying through the air and them all potentially dying. Like, I mean, it can be a little.
Oh no. Yeah, lots.
I can see it.
Lots of crazy stuff goes on in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah,
but
that's true too.
I don't know. I was not familiar with this. This was something Weston got for Christmas. I wasn't familiar with this author or this book before, and he has lots of books. It's a nice, thick, still junior level, but nice and thick, lots of illustrations and stuff, and we're having a good time with it so far.
Well, we will have to check that out then.
I guess you will.
Very cool.
Back to the list here, number 3, 9 weeks on the list, a little bit newer. Gustavo the Shy Ghost by Flavia Z. Drago. A ghost learns to overcome his social anxiety.
I don't think that's actually that new. I think that was at least last year's book.
Darn it. Well, it's back and
But
popular.
it's newer on the list.
Newer on the list. Okay.
There we go.
Number
I'll allow
2, 10 weeks on the list. The Bad Seed presents The Good, the Bad, and the Spooky by Jory John, illustrated by Pete Oswald. Bad Seed seeks the perfect Halloween costume.
There's another one of those little blue truck stories coming there.
You don't want it to be a series.
The Bad Seed does not need to take us through finding the perfect costume, I don't think.
I agree with that.
I like the Bad Seed and the
good egg,
couch potato, good egg, whatever it is. Like, I like that run.
Okay.
I like when they change it and they've got the different personality traits, whatever, you know, like that's cool. But I don't think I need to see Bad Seed picking out his Halloween costume either.
Do you know what? Both my son and I just loved these books, and I wish I could remember. Maybe it's Mac Barnett. I don't know. The ones that were, one was called Circle, one was called Triangle, one was called Square.
Yes.
Is that Mac Barnett?
Yes.
Okay. He loved those. And
Did he really?
They're so weird and they're so funny. I liked those a lot. But it was the same kind of deal. It wasn't really like they were sequels. It was just kind of like, here's a new spin on this world or situation. So I like that too.
I kind of like that for the kids' books.
Yeah. Number 1, 6 weeks on the list, Change Sings by Amanda Gorman, illustrated by Lauren Long. Amanda Gorman, of course, the inaugural poet at this last presidential election.
Love her.
She read that poem, and I feel like every librarian in the world was going to buy like her book, and there was nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
And like the only thing on the
I need this.
I know.
I need her.
I know. And finally,
everything.
This was coming, but this was a long ways away from the inauguration.
Yes, it was.
And
I think it was just published
it was
a couple weeks ago, maybe. I mean, however long it's been on there, I guess.
Yeah, 6 weeks it says.
Yeah.
But it was just so funny because like everybody was looking, and so finally they put out like a hardcover of just the one poem she read.
Yes.
But that was people wanted it. People wanted it, and it wasn't
yes.
there. Anyway, this is a children's
Absolutely.
anthem for change. Haven't read this one yet. Have you read it?
I have not. I haven't been able to get my hands on it yet.
I do like Lauren Long's illustration.
Yeah, I think I've got one of his in my
You do.
my list that I
Yeah.
sent you today.
Yep.
Yes.
I like the Otis books and
I do
stuff
too.
that he does, and yeah, a lot of good stuff
Absolutely.
there. Any on here that like what tops your list here? What's the one where you're like, I gotta get that book, gotta read that book?
On my list there.
Yeah.
Well, the change things, but I know that one we're already
Okay.
working on getting.
Did any of these pique your interest that you didn't know about? I feel like you had all the numbers for all of these.
I didn't know about the how to catch a unicorn,
Oh, yeah. Mm.
so I would probably get that one, even though I'm like, okay, whatever, like it's the same thing. But I mean, kids love unicorns, and it's a good formula, so might as well use it, you know.
Gustavo the Shy Ghost. That I like the look of that. That looks fun.
It was a cute one. I remember getting that one and reading it and enjoying it because it was, you know, he's a ghost. He's not always going to be seen. So for a shy ghost, it kind of makes sense, you know. Not just Casper either, but.
Yeah. All right. Well, those are the latest picture books. Let's talk some of Kate's favorites.
Yes.
So, Kate, tell me how did you put together this list that we're looking at today?
Well, I order so many
Yes.
books throughout a year that I honestly went back through my orders this year. And I was like, what did I order? You know, especially early on, because we were in an entirely different world then. So I couldn't remember off the top of my head. But I was like, what did I order? And I pretty much just went through and I was like, oh, that was a good one. Oh, that I loved the illustration on that one. You know, like the things that I remembered, whether it was what the story was about, how it looked, or the characters that were portrayed. I really tried to get a good range of these are great representations of one thing or another. And as I went through, I think I sent you like 10 titles. Yeah. And they were cream of the crop for me.
All right. And now are these all so these are relatively recent then?
Relatively, yeah.
Okay.
There are a handful. I actually grabbed them all so that I would have them handy.
Nice.
But there are a couple that actually still have their new stickers on them.
All right.
So yeah, they're all this year, published this year, I believe, or late last year at least, and in our library too. So.
Well, I did read all of these to my son. And
did you?
Yes, and he was very complimentary. He was like, "How is she picking all of these hilarious and fun books?" It was blowing his mind. We'll get to it, but some of them he was like rolling on the floor laughing. He just like loved them so much.
Yes, that's what I live to hear. That's why.
So there you go, instant feedback. He was all in.
Did you have a favorite?
Oh boy, I mean,
least favorite. We could start at the other end.
Oh, you know what? This is what I wanted to get your opinion on. Because we read Someone Builds the Dream by Lisa Wheeler.
I saw you two-starred that on Goodreads.
Okay, here's what I want.
I had a bone to pick with you.
Okay, well, go ahead. Okay, so tell me why you picked it and like what you liked about it and stuff.
Okay, first of all, it's Lauren Long. The illustrations.
That's the Lauren Long one, yep.
Fantastic.
Yes, I agree.
It's soft but realistic. It's like a dream. Like every illustration that Lauren Long does, it's like you're looking at someone's dreams because they're realistic enough to be like, oh, wow, that's beautiful. But then it's so soft and like it's fuzzy almost. So I thought that was beautiful. And I thought that it's like an unsung heroes kind of, you know, you don't always, I mean, yes, picture books, you get a lot of like construction equipment or heavy machinery, but to actually see the people doing the work behind those machines, I thought between the illustrations and, you know, that kind of unsung hero vibe, I loved it.
So here's the thing that hit me weird about it, and it must just be me because I don't see this in reviews or anywhere else. But I guess I sort of felt like they remain unsung because it was like it was like the architect, draws a beautiful building, but someone has to build the dream. But it didn't like it showed the people, but it wasn't like, an engineer has to do this, or like a plumber has to do this. Like, it was still not saying what those jobs
It was a
are.
little overarching, kind of.
Well, I guess I felt like the point was that it was trying to highlight all the different work that gets done, but it was still only focusing on like the flashy or exciting part of the job, and then just kind of lumping all the behind the scenes stuff together. And I felt like that was kind of like missing the point
I could see that.
a little bit. So I don't know.
could
I
see
guess maybe that was just me, but that was my problem with that book. I felt like, well, if you're going to do that, then like don't just name, the corner office job. Like name
Right.
the other ones.
Yeah, and I mean, as I'm glancing through it here, I do see someone needs to plumb the pipes.
Yeah.
But someone has to tighten the bolts. But it's like, okay, so are they bolt tighteners? Is that their
That's
job
what
description?
That's exactly what
So
I mean.
I do
Yeah.
see what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
But-
it's not
and-
like
and
the
another-
foreman has to, or you know what I mean, or an electrician
Right.
has to. It's just like,
I got you there. I can see that. I think overall, I thought it got the point across well enough.
yeah,
And then looking at the illustrations, and I felt like there was a good amount of diversity in there with
Definitely.
the character representation. There were women, there were people of color,
Yeah.
there were men, all shapes and sizes. So
Yeah.
that was another bonus that I was like, yes, this is a good package deal kind
Yeah.
of thing. But I can see your takeaway on that too.
well,
though.
listen, I've been trapped home alone for so long.
You're
that
like, no, but
maybe I
this.
maybe I'm just looking for a fight. I don't know.
I had to put Carmel Wilson on there. I love The Bear Can't Wait.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm.
I love these bear books. I don't know why. They are perfect for story time. They're adorable. They are bright and colorful. I love the story and the illustrations. They're just, again, a really good package
Yeah.
deal. And this is one series that I do always look forward to. It's not like a little blue truck. I can't wait to see Bear.
Hmm.
I just can't wait.
This was, I feel like maybe the first time this has ever happened, but I started reading this to my son, and he was like, "Oh, is this the same book as like the bear can't snore or something?" There's some snore book.
Bear Snores On.
Bear Snores On. That's it. And I was like,
Yes.
I don't know, so I looked it up, and it was. And
Oh my goodness.
he's like read the other books at school and was like familiar with the series and the format and everything. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I love these." And I was like, "What?" So
Yes.
I thought that was cool because he was just like reading these independently, like at free time at school.
Right?
So,
Because
but
that's
no.
what I do too. I'm like, oh, I love the bear books.
Yep, yep. He had the same reaction. Yeah, these were just fun. I mean, again, illustrations are so key in a picture book, obviously, and
Yes.
this is a good use of space. Like there's a lot going on, but it doesn't feel messy.
No.
It's bright and full, but it's not chaotic.
Yep.
And
And I
just
mean,
fun.
sometimes it is, but I think that's kind of the point too. So
Yeah.
So I think it works.
It's also a good amount of repetition. I mean,
Yes.
I know this is like one of the like hazards of your job, but reading some of these books aloud that you have to repeat the same thing 100 times can get really a lot.
Yeah.
And this with and Bear Can't Wait, I thought that worked. Like it was.
Yes.
It
And
was
that is kind of the formula.
Yeah.
It's like this, and this, but the bear snores on,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing. It's that same formula every time, but it's not too forced,
No.
in my opinion, in
No.
those. I think they do well enough that it plays out naturally instead
Yeah.
of being like, oh yeah, here it is again.
I think it strikes the right balance so that a kid can predict the rhythm, but it doesn't feel like
Yes.
being beaten over the head by it. And so I did like
Yes.
that quite a lot.
Unless you've read it 8,000 times, then it kind of
And then,
gets
yeah,
beaten over
in
the
which
head.
case.
Yeah. So did Westy have a favorite out of the pile? What had him
Oh,
rolling?
definitely. No Pants. No Pants.
Yeah.
By Jacob Grant. Yes. That one
Oh god.
right
that
from
one
the
was so
start.
good.
I mean, he was inconsolable. He was laughing so hard.
Well, and that's another thing. Again, if I am not up to snuff enough to like create a Caldecott prediction list, and some of these aren't necessarily up to that level. But if this was like Miss Kate's favorites of the year.
Yeah.
Like these are up there, and this one was up there. I mean, the illustrations are basic. They're standard. It's fine, but the story was funny.
It was really
from
funny.
page one.
Yeah.
And like
Just
I
a
think
little kid
when it comes
won't
to
put pants on. I mean, that's the plot.
which doesn't everybody have those days where it's like, no.
Yeah.
Like we aren't doing the things that we have to do. I don't want to. So I thought it was so relatable as an adult and as a child. And then the little twist at the end of like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that worked really, really well.
Yeah. No, you're right.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's fun to read. It's funny. It's got that touch of naughtiness, you know?
Yes.
Which
doesn't
always...
push.
Yep. No.
It's just enough.
Yep.
Yes.
I could see this being on like a short list for like the Seuss Geisel Award, maybe. You know?
Yeah.
Like the
I think so too.
Style and everything of it seems just right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was a big hit, definitely.
That
He
was
also,
funny.
for similar reasons, liked Sam's First Word by B. Birdsong.
Funny
quite a
enough, I
bit.
knew you were going to say that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, on the cover of Sam's First Word, it says in little speech bubbles, say mama, say papa, and then coming out of Sam's mouth, of course, it says poop.
Poop.
So right from the cover, you get the idea about what's going on
Yeah,
there.
you know
and
it's a good
this
time.
Adorable, bright-eyed baby in fuzzy pajamas, and it's like, yep, this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, not winning a whole lot of awards in the upper echelon here, but boy, is this one popular.
Yeah.
It's cute and it's hilarious, and you know, and again, it plays for the adults and the children.
Yeah.
Like there are some books that I'm like, who did they really write this for? Was this for kids or was this really written for their adults?
Yeah.
But this one was good for both.
Yeah.
I really liked that one too.
I feel like my favorite from the list, it's a tough call, but
It
one
is.
of them was Too Crowded by Lena
Yes.
Podesta. I just like that a lot, about a goldfish trying to find the right spot.
And it was just too much because I mean it was another one that it was kind of funny, but this one at least had a balance of like it's funny but also I kind of get it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the goldfish grows legs and walks out with a suitcase, I was like,
Yep. Yep.
I'll find a new house, he says, and off he goes. Like it was, you know, finding oneself and going on an adventure and then kind of coming back to realize that maybe what you had wasn't so bad.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And I think it was a tidy little package as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So that one was your favorite?
That one and The Secret Fawn by Callie George, I feel like were high on my
The
list.
Secret Fawn was really good.
Secret
too.
Fawn, I think, the illustrations in that are just so nice. Is that watercolor? Would you say, or are those like?
It does look like it.
got
At
that
least
vibe.
partly watercolor.
Yeah.
The backgrounds and everything definitely have that look to it. But
I
yeah,
like books like that are. I mean, it's interesting and it's engaging for kids, but it has kind of a. I don't know. It's just a very mellow, pleasant feeling, like when you're reading it, which I think is nice.
And you know, the poor little girl through this story, the Secret Fawn. So what was it? She missed.
Her whole family saw a deer, and she didn't see it.
Deer.
Yeah.
And then she kind of wandered off, but then she saw the fawn.
Yeah.
So it was her secret fawn.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, the poor girl is not pleased.
No.
But I don't feel like there was distress in the storytelling or the images.
Right.
It was like, oh, you know, maybe she was a little glum, but then it was uplifting, like, oh, I got my own secret fawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that was probably one of my favorites this year for illustrations. Top notch. It's dreamlike entirely.
Yeah.
It's like you're looking through the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved the soft fluffy pictures. And I mean the close-up, I'm looking through it now, which isn't fair.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, oh my gosh, but look at this.
Yeah.
But you know, there's close-ups of dandelions,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the background, it's just, you can tell just the shadow of the trees, and it's just gorgeous. It's like everything at sunset, kind of. You know, that golden hour when the sun comes in at that angle. That's the whole book.
I could see that. I could see that
beautiful.
showing up on a Caldecott watch list.
I think it could be. Absolutely.
A book that you have on the list here that I feel like is the complete opposite of that is Stroller Coaster.
Yes, wasn't that one wild?
It is, and it has a very, almost like a 1940s, like Felix the Cat or like a Tintin kind of vibe to it, you know?
Yes, the I almost said animation, which I think tells you a lot about the illustration of
Right.
it.
Yeah, that's true.
Is just it's big. It's big and it's bold.
Yeah.
And I honestly, when I saw this one, I was like, oh yeah, I liked that one. But I couldn't pinpoint exactly why. But I think the illustrations and the story itself, it didn't stick with me the way that a couple of the other ones might have.
Yeah.
But I remembered being like, it felt like a roller coaster. As I read that book, it really did feel like you were just going on a ride. It was all movement all the time. And I think it worked really well between the illustrations and the story that they were telling.
I agree. I think the illustrations are really what make that book.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and
that was it. Like, I'm like, what even happened in that story, really?
Yeah.
But then you look at it and it's like, oh, yeah, right.
I totally agree on the movement, though. I mean, you can almost see it moving. Like, that's what it feels like.
Yes. Again, almost, I mean, if somebody wanted to make a short film out of this, it would be easy enough done.
Yep.
It was awesome. Really, really good. And again, it's not my favorite kind of illustration, but it worked for what it needed to do there.
Agreed.
Okay, so we also had Over the Shop, which I picked mostly. This one, again, I didn't particularly like the illustrations, but I liked the story behind it.
This is the one that's wordless, right?
Yes. Little girl lives with, which I'm not always a big fan of wordless books either. There are very few. But, little girl lives with the grumpy older lady, and they're trying to rent a place over the shop.
Yeah.
And a LGBTQ couple comes and wants to rent it, and the lady tries to just turn him away, and the kid convinces them. Convinces the lady, like, hey, let's give it a chance. And they kind of, they find a peace. And I think that representation in there was important in the story of just acceptance, kind of.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Like, and in the end, they kind of, spoiler alert, but they kind of end up becoming a little bit of a family, which I think was all that all of them needed.
Yeah, so, that's nice. This was one that I didn't have access to remotely, so I didn't actually see the inside of it. But I felt like from like the cover image and what I was able to see online, it has kind of a 70s feel to the illustrations.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that. Almost like Peanuts or, something like that. A little bit.
It's kind of like a messiness to it, which I liked. I liked on that.
Yeah. And then the last that I have on my list, Fred Gets Dressed.
Yep.
By Peter Brown,
who I haven't forgiven from The Wild Robot. I'm still sad about that book.
That was a hard one. Yeah, that we can't talk about that.
No.
But I found really interesting. So little boy is just traipsing through the house naked.
Yeah.
And
which again got a lot of laughs. Got a lot of laughs from my son. Yeah.
Like, it's a solid start, and then wanders into mom and dad's closet and debates what clothes to put on.
Yeah.
Do I put on dad's clothes, which are all like brown and baggy and kind of boring?
My clothes are cool. That's all I'm saying. My clothes are cool. They're not brown and baggy, but
okay. Fred's dad's
clothes, yeah.
Not Weston's dad's closet.
Right.
But he's kind of looking and comparing, and then he sees mom's closet, who has a range of colors and shapes and sizes and heights. There's just so much more variety, and Fred decides to dress up like mom. And there's this page where mom and dad walk in, and Fred's got a skirt and high heels and beads on, I think, and mom and dad kind of look at each other, and then they go and they start putting makeup on.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, sure. It was like there was a moment where this story could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And
you kind of think he's going to get in trouble.
Okay.
You kind of think he's going to get in trouble, and they roll with it. Yeah, what I thought was effective about the book is that it doesn't feel like it's some heavy-handed message. It's just sort of like realigning the conversation to be about, like, kids are curious,
Exactly.
Like, kids are curious to try things. And this was like, I feel like this is the kind of thing that's changing or whatever, but when I was a kid, that was like a really big deal. Like, I remember...
I agree.
Like, I wanted a Wonder Woman action figure, and everybody was like, that's for girls. Like, why do you want a doll? And I was like, I like, and that was like a big thing.
The podcast can't see me right now, but there is steam coming out of my ears visibly.
That was like, That was my experience growing up with anything
Absolutely.
like that. Was always kind of like, that's girl stuff, you know. And it was like,
Hmm.
I don't think the intention was to make me feel like bad or weird about it, but I did. You know, I
Yeah.
still wanted the Wonder Woman action figure, and I saved up my money and got it. But like, that was a
But there are so
thing.
many people who wouldn't have, you know, it was like, oh, I'm not supposed to do
Yeah.
this. And I think that's part of why I love this book, is because there's no repercussions. There's just
Yeah.
exploring, you know, exploring things. It's not even like exploring his gender or sexuality or anything.
No,
It's
it's
just
got nothing to do with that. It's just
no. And this little boy, when I say little boy, I mean toddler, like 2 maybe
Yeah,
in this
right.
book. So it's not, I don't even think it's supposed to mean that explicitly.
hmm
I think it is just exploration. It was just finding
Yeah.
the fun and the colorful. And maybe if we wanted to use it as a teaching point, a talking point, yes, we could
Yeah.
say this is a natural thing. Look at the comparison, you know,
Yeah.
looking at the closets. That was what I took away from it.
Yeah.
Was this is a natural thing for all children to do. And he just chose what looked like the more fun option.
Yeah. This makes me think of this. I feel like I have this story from my childhood that anytime this conversation comes up, I think about it. And that was, I had this friend who lived, like, we lived a couple houses down, so we were always like running over to each other's houses and stuff. He came over to my house one day in like a complete panic because, and we were pretty little, because he was playing with nail polish and like painted, I think just painted just one of his fingers, his fingernail, painted the fingernail.
Right?
Not realizing that like nail polish doesn't just come off. You can't just like wipe it off.
Oh no.
And he was in a panic that he was going to get caught. You know, like
Right?
he was so like, we got to get this off before anyone sees it, and was really like really upset about it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I just like went into our bathroom and found nail polish remover and like wiped it off. But like, I think about just how panicked he was that he was going to get caught, and I'm using air quotes on caught, because like,
Yes.
caught doing what, you know?
Yeah.
But that
Which breaks my heart.
was the mindset then, and I think for a lot of people that's still the mindset now, you
I
know?
think it is too.
And I think a book like this is just a good way to sort of be like, it's not a thing, you know, like it doesn't
Right.
have to be a thing because somebody's
And
curious about something, you know.
I think that's what
Uh,
I loved about it too, because it's just kids being kids.
Yeah.
And this is reframing the way that parents can look at
Yeah.
kids being kids. Like, we don't have to automatically be like, whoa, those are girls' clothes.
Yeah,
Clothes are clothes.
Right.
The boy's dress now, isn't that enough?
Right.
Like, you know, like who cares? He's having fun.
yeah,
You know, it's just I feel like it's a very gentle reframing
yeah,
of a lot of mindsets, and I really loved that.
Yeah.
I really did. That was right up there on the top of my list, probably for that reason. Like, it delivered a message that could be taken on multiple levels.
Yeah.
And it was really well delivered, and again, the illustrations were well done, because it was kind of muted tones.
hmm
Like, there was a lot of like almost brownish, grayish, and then there was some pink, you know, but it wasn't like a pop of color like
Right,
stroller coaster all over the place. So it used its palette wisely. I felt like
hmm Yeah,
So
I agree.
there was a lot to that.
It's fun to look at. The little kid running around naked, again, was a big hit. My
Yeah.
son thought that was
Yeah.
hilarious.
It definitely ensues a giggle.
And it's just like, you know, it's just a funny, cute story. And the illustrations like back that up really well.
Absolutely. I think that just leaves one on my list here, which is Our Shed, a father-daughter building story. Did you get a chance to see that one?
That's another one that I couldn't find an online
that one?
version of,
Okay.
so you'll have to tell me about it.
So it is very simply just a father and a daughter, and they build a shed.
Mm.
They make all the decisions, and they just they build this shed, and they decide what to do with it, and they are the only two characters, but you see them aging
Okay.
throughout the story. They have to touch it up. Well, should we repaint it? This and that. And then it gets to a point where daughter comes with her son,
hmm
which would be dad's grandson
Right.
now, you know, and they touch up the shed. And so it's just kind of like a generational, nice passing down
sounds kind of sad.
The shed a little bit. Like there were no deaths.
Okay.
It didn't get quite to that point.
Okay.
But it was the whole she grew up.
Passage of time.
I took it too. Yeah, the passage of time, and it seemed, I mean, we have no evidence against or for this, but it seemed like it was just girl and dad.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
And so, for them to have that time together and those experiences, and then for mom to turn around then and share that with her son in the future was touching. And I liked the fact that, I think that the daughter was allowed to make the decisions. It wasn't like dad was in charge and she was his helper. They were a team.
Yeah. And
I liked that lifted the daughter up a little bit, instead of, because I always have my feminist classes.
Sure.
So she was able to be lifted up to being on a level with her father in this project. And I liked that, and I think it was nice to see that then she turned around and did that with her own son as well.
Yeah.
So that was my takeaway from it. And illustrated by Carrie O'Neill, which I don't recognize the art or the name specifically, but very clean looking.
Okay.
Like sharp corners, sharp, crisp kind of thing, but colorful and bright and really beautiful too.
Nice.
Do you know anything by Carrie O'Neill by name?
No, not by name.
It's not one that I recognize.
Yeah.
But
well, I think this was a very fun list, and like I said, I got 2 thumbs up from my son. There wasn't. I don't think there was anyone in here that he was like, "Oh, that's boring." He was all for it. So.
And had I not created this list on some of my favorites, there were some that I ordered this year that I was like, "Oh, not my favorite."
Oh, really?
Which happens. It always happens. I hope somebody else loves it, or I hope that it serves a purpose somehow. But I'm like, "Oh yeah, these were my favorites."
Nice.
And like, there were a couple others I probably could have thrown on there, but I think I compiled my favorite 10.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So we have all these in the collection then, that must mean, because these are from your orders.
Yes. And they're all on my desk currently, so I'll make sure that...
Right. Once they make their way back from Kate's desk.
I'll put them back on the shelves so other people can enjoy them too, I guess.
Out. All right. Well, happy Picture Book Month.
Yes. Thank you. You too.
All right, Kate, what do we have coming up in the next couple of weeks here in November, December?
Well, let's see. I've got Dino Lanterns on November 29th at 6 o'clock at Monday. Monday at 6 o'clock, not 6 o'clock at Monday, whatever. In the exhibition room. And so we've got these cute little glass jars that we'll fill up and put some stickers on. They're really cute. Also, the first Monday in December, we are going to be making cards for some of the nursing home residents in the area.
Oh, that's great.
Ardent Solutions sent out this idea that like, hey, let's get as many groups as we can to send some cards to our folks that are
Very
in the
cool.
resident care facilities. So that's what we will be doing on Monday. I believe it's December 6th. So that we can do all that. So hopefully lots of people come out and we get lots of cards to those folks.
Nice.
Other than that, we've got our Holiday Fest coming
That's
up
right.
too.
Yep.
Not awful long.
Yep. The annual Friends Trimetry event on December 11th. We've got the Nutcracker coming back. A lot of cool things. A lot of cool things cracking at the David A. Howe Public Library.
Oh, I see what you did
this
there.
season. All right. Well, Kate, always a pleasure to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for twisting my arm to get back on here. It's never as bad as I think it's going to be.
Well, that's what I keep telling you. I tell you that every time. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.